Good.
Good.
All right, everyone good? All right.
Yeah, good.
Something really fascinating to me about Tobias is that he plays with a lot of topics of toxic masculinity, anti-blackness, self-hate. How have you as an actor gone into playing that role, and has it made you assess any of your own beliefs?
Very good question. Always when you play a role, you have to embody the character and kind of let yourself go, so that you can, give yourself authority to play him. And then at the same time, you have to be honest with yourself and know that, there's a little bit of, everything in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And yeah, I've had to be honest with myself about certain things and then come to certain conclusions, and take inventory on where I stand as a black man, and allow him to stand where he stands as a black man. Totally.
Yeah, I know there's a very youthful but very old school mentality, and it sounds like all the old heads I knew coming up as a kid. I know for a fact you had to draw from, the older generation and all that from. How has that been to put that into your work?
Yeah, and I did. For me, it's been fun, as well as liberating, because I get to, in this day and time, in this present day, kind of pull and grab from sources that are known, like you said, and are unknown, and create something that's unique and different, that feels across the gamut relatable to the black experience. I think we all know somebody like Tobias well, somewhere in our family or neighborhood or school or whatever. So, yeah, and that took from pulling from different elements, especially from the elders and the elder generation of speak your truth, and yeah, I stay there with it, for sure.
I want to talk to you about craft, because one of the most fascinating things about the way you perform Tobias is the way you modulate his emotional kind of state across a bunch of different vectors, right?
Yeah.
You can go hammy, you can go super villain, right?
Yeah.
And be big and gestural, and overblown, but also you're intensely quiet. His sibling relationship with Tori in season 1 was really heartfelt. So talk to me about dialing up those specific colors when needed.
That's a good question. Again, you have to be honest with yourself, and you, for me with the character, going into it knowing that I'm playing something that is already, facilitated in the minds of a lot of people, and coming from a world where there's been a bar already set for villains or super villains or comic book villains, or but there hasn't been, not a lot if you think about it, from our perspective, and that speak to our community. It's imperative to me to create an emotional presence that was real, that didn't have, one side to it, or one level to it, or didn't, create this almost, where it's almost fantasy.
Cartoonish.
Cartoonish, exactly was the word I was looking for. And in order for me to do that, I had to infuse real emotion. I mean, real emotion. Not cartoon or comic book emotion, but real emotion. So that, and it might even, just like you say, it might be, because one thing I as an actor, as actors, we learn, and one thing I as an actor, as a man, let me say this, not as an actor, as a man, I am very much so aware of the power in tonality. You know, this generation, and I'm not going to sound a little bit like Tobias right now, right? This generation, you know, has gotten so much away from tonality, and we're okay with that due to social media and text messages and two-way pages, where it started with me, and now with the iPhones and texting and all of that. Tonality and ambiguity have taken, you know, the absence of tonality and the infusion of ambiguity has become the way that we communicate.
Right, you can't read tone from a text. You're like, are you playing with me now?
And we're okay with that.
And we're okay with it.
We're okay with that. We hide behind true emotion minus tonality. We take away the tonality so they don't hide the emotion and say anything that we want. I understanding that as a man, right, first, not as an actor, as a creative, not as Tobias, well, as a man first, I know going into the character, it was important for me to utilize the power of tonality. And there is a power in it, you know, and I think that it's been forgotten. And I think what we're seeing now with someone who plays a villain or who plays evil or who plays manipulative or who plays authoritative or whatever it may be, it has to come across in the tone, in the emotion, the reality, and I focus on that. You know, I really do.
Season 1 and 2, we got to see Tobias as a businessman, as a man of the community, even though he was, you know, double-siding and still doing bad things. But in season 3, you know, he's in the control of ASA. He's really being stripped of everything, his powers, his, you know, youthfulness. How would you say his persona and his tonality are going to change? And is his focus going to shift more so onto Odell, or do you think it's still going to continue to fuel that hatred for Black Lightning?
It's an interesting question. I don't know. I mean, already we have, you know, we've revealed, it's been revealed, you know, that he is able to be confined and be able to be altered in his own right? And he is able to suffer some consequences. So, but I have a feeling that that doesn't deter him from being who he is supposed to be, you know, in his mind, you know, and he's suffered enough adversity. I think that's something that, which again, all credit to the writers and to the creator, Salim Akil, because it's, what we're saying is, in Tobias, I speak for only, is that you and from season 1 to season 3, from the the reveals that we've had in season 1 to the reveals we had in season 2 to the reveals we have in season 3, he is someone who is empowered by adversity. Feel me?
Yeah. How has it been working with, because everybody backs to the question, how does it feel to be working with
Bill Duke?
Yes.
Everyone asks that because it's a question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's fucking royalty. Excuse my language. Excuse my language. He's like cinematic and television royalty. I love that. I love that I'm able to answer this question. Think about that.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean? You have to have worked with him in order to answer this question. so it like that in itself. Again, he's cinematic royalty. He's and from two sides, from as an actor and a director, right? Yeah. And I just read his book 2 last year. It was incredible. Or this year, excuse me. It was incredible. He's incredible. Working with him is something that, as an actor, I've been acting for 10 years. Working with him is something that I never even imagined doing. There's certain, even when you're as an actor, right? There's certain people you never imagine yourself working with them until you work with them. You know? I got a lot of people on my list that I don't imagine working with until, you know, I work with them. Yeah. He's one of them. So when I watch the scenes back, you know, I'm in awe of them. I'm in utter awe. I can't front. He is incredible. Then I sit up and just the other night, I'm sitting up just watching TV, you know, aimlessly, and Red Dragon comes on, and he's the police chief in Red Dragon, you know, and I just take that, you know, and I take a picture of it and I send it to him and say, hey, boss, I'm watching you on on Red Dragon right now, you know what I mean? And just to think that I have that relationship with him, you know, we're working on a book together right now.
Nice.
Wow. And he's an amazing man. He's been a mentor and a big brother to me in a short time. And he's poured into me, and you know, those were big days for me, those scenes, man, with him. So, yeah, hopefully we work together some more, you know, on this project and other projects. Yeah.
Joaquin Phoenix has been very vocal about how he's had to really tap into his self-care by playing the Joker. You also play, you know, this really extreme villain. How do you kind of detach yourself from it and take care of your own mental health?
You are doing that, right?
I went and saw, I like him. I went and saw Joker 3 times by myself. That's why I like this question so much, because I did. I went and sat in the theater by myself 3 times and watched it. I was so moved by his performance. I don't know if anyone saw it.
It's a great movie.
It's been a long time since I was moved by a performance like that. A long time. Playing a villain much like he is, and I've focused a lot in the last 3 years on self-care and my own mental health and my own, but I was doing that before this role, to be perfectly honest. I think that I was faced with the severity and the need once I was given this task. And then as I prepared for it, especially we're in season 3 now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I've been walking this dog for a long time. But going into it, season 1 was very hard for me, to be perfectly honest, to actually get into what this guy has become.
Right.
Was a little hard for me. I can only imagine what Joaquin went through. I can only imagine what Heath Ledger, rest in peace, went through. And I have to say this, that I'm playing somebody on TV. Mm-hmm. So you're not getting this impact in a 2-hour span. Mm. You're getting this over 30 hours already of you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you can only imagine, in my mind, how intense and severe it is for me to maintain impact, mm-hmm. right? And interest for that long period of time for the fan and the viewer. I take it extremely intensely, the seriousness that is for me as a character, it is for the writers, and I hope that it comes out in, you know, here we are 3 seasons we've been watching this guy, you know. I hope that you feel, what is this guy going to do next? You know what I'm saying? Because he's so unpredictable mm-hmm. throughout. And again, to Joaquin's, you know, merit and everybody involved. I mean, everybody, you know, whether it be Vincent D'Onofrio, I've spoken to him about it, playing Kingpin. I mean, he plays so many roles so good. He's in a constant state of pivot and turn. You have to focus on yourself, and you have to focus on self-care, and you have to, because you're dealing with the ways of the world in a pretend state, and then you're dealing with the ways of the world in reality, and you know, it's a constant contrast.
Guys, this is our last question.
Anybody? Okay, I guess that's me. Oh, do you want it?
No, you got it.
All right. So far, we have not seen no action from Tobias this year. I know. It's so fun to see him meditate, and not even funny. I noticed that you had to kind of draw back because you're not doing it. He's not intimidated. He's the one. He's almost the victim in this situation. He's meditating. He's keeping his cool, and yet he's still, man, Negro, please. He's still like that. So how does it feel to not be as active, I guess, active villain, but you're more, like I said, you're restrained. It's restrained,
yeah. It's been challenging, you know, but in a good way. I say that, like, don't feel sorry for me. It's been challenging in the best way as an actor, because again, like I said, I've been able for 2 years to wear, you know, beautifully tailored suits and drive extremely expensive cars and have, you know, just this life, right? And the life of Rick Ross, I tell people, right? so I'm living out this life, and you know, as an actor, you know, playing it for 2 years. So yeah, it's been fun to kind of go somewhere else with it, you know, and to become vulnerable and to become, you know, for lack of a better word, defeated in a sense, even if it's temporarily, you know, I don't know how long it's going to be, but, you know, to play defeated, to know that, you know, every dog has its day. And what's been the best part of it is seeing how the audience has reacted to that reveal. To go from this guy you love to hate, right? And this guy who you have this fear for, to this guy that you have this empathy for, and this sympathy for, and that you don't want to see tortured like that, you know? So to me, and again, all merit and credit to the writers, because they saw that, you know, that, okay, if you think about it, we've seen how many sides of Tobias, and I've been able to play those things, you know, sitting in the makeup and seeing myself like that, you know, and to go into that part of the character to me was, it was hard, but it was exciting, you know. It's very much so exciting, you know. It's just like play a different position on the field. You know?
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thank you guys. It was awesome talking to you guys.
It was great talking to you.
All right. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Take it easy.
Thank you.